the indicators for student achievement progress, I provided you the data on in my comments too. And those indicators are regular attenders K2, third grade ELA proficiency, ninth grade on track, graduate on-time graduation rate, 5-year completer rate, and all of those in comparison to the state average as well. And the other two indicators that you asked for in your both core goals to demonstrate student achievement or progress, to monitor it. Student progress is in the CTE and college level participation. And we're trying to find that data. That data is also required for the integrated application. And so we're knocking on OE's door saying, okay, well, where's the warehouse where the data is? And I was talking with Jimmy about this, and there hasn't been a systematic system for collecting that data in the district previous to our time here. So we're designing a system to put that data together to be able to show you trends on how that data is going from year to year. But in the meantime, we're still working with ODE to try to, they're requiring it. How do we get it from them? And or how are they going to collect it so that we have it? And that's where we're at. If you have any questions on those indicators, any one of them, or any of the other data that I provided you.
The last one specific to the college credit, that's what we're struggling with, and then also the CTE. I think Mona has given us the college credit one.
I gave you the college credit
Okay.
in the last board
That's
report.
what I thought.
And I also gave because you wanted the first term in February and March, and then, so I gave you that, and then I can compile that for you. The CTE data is a little bit harder
Okay.
because we've not had completers before.
Yeah.
Because our programs weren't set up correctly.
That makes
So
sense.
we won't have those per the state regulations probably for the next couple of years. We had 2 completers last year. But we definitely have more kids take CTE classes.
Sure. That makes sense.
Any other questions on the data? Moving on, staff evaluation. Okay, so we're in full go. We're back to our full evaluation cycle with a couple of additions. We moved our system, our evaluation system online with calendar platform for efficiency, mostly for the staff. There's no paper pencil stuff anymore, it's all online. And our administrators can then do their information online, their evaluation information. And we can also collect that online rather than having files and paper for our district office. And we can send that information or tally the data to send to ODP annually. I have to provide a report to them on evaluations. And so we'll do it all electronically, having files and different files. And we've so that is for all of our groups, the administrators as well as classified, and we designed a classified evaluation system that had not existed previously. So all classified staff will be now be on the evaluation cycle as well, and they appreciate that. They like the feedback, they wanted it as well, and so we now have the same type of system online for them. So that.
Is there an additional cost to utilize the performance talent editor this year?
No, Talented is a contract, we use that online platform, so we pay for that.
Right. But did we already had a license that supported that, or did we change our license? Like, is there an additional cost?
No, we contracted with them, well, this is a new contract, we didn't have this before, so this is a new contract with Talented. And we are now gearing in and training up our staff with the Talented platform. So they've already had one PD session, and the administrators are 2 sessions ahead of them so that they can walk them through with the other sessions that are successful as they go through the program. Mhm. And then my activities. Do you guys have any questions on the activities? I think it's really fun this year was going to open houses in person.
A lot of them in person that were appreciated this year.
Oh, but the most exciting of the month of the week is obviously the football and the championship. And hearing the band from top.
You sound good.
They do. Yeah, they do with that anthem.
Okay, anything else, Mike?
No, this is my report.
Okay, all right. Student representative report, we have Hannah here tonight. Do you want to give us an update on what's been happening at the high school?
Sure. Here's the list from being here.
Okay.
So pretty much, this is the homecoming week, so we've had a lot of activities happening, like assemblies, games, assemblies, all that stuff. There's also the school day, SAT, PSATs, and ASVAB, we did that today, it was kind of that like weird schedule. And then, oh yeah, we also had the Harvest Festival, that was really fun, I had a lot of fun with that one. There's also the manufacturing field trip. Oh, that's cool. And conferences on the 19th. We also have the fall music concert on the 25th. And the 18th, there's the makeup picture day. The 31st, we have a safe Halloween at the high school. We also have college application week. Yeah, there's also blood drives happening at the high school, all these other little extra activities, NHS and doing stuff, so. Yeah, those guys are coming together.
Do a lot of kids show up for the blood drive, or are they in friends and meals still?
Honestly, we have a lot of kids sign up, it's surprising how many sign up, so, yeah, we always meet our limit or like minimum, so. it's
So
pretty
we
good.
do better than the big schools.
Yeah, we do pretty good, we can bring a lot of people.
Yeah.
No wonder we are meeting our goal.
You should talk about some of the activities and the stuff today. It was really fun. I have some fun things.
Yeah, it was really fun. The one that I was in charge of was the ball for apples. That was really a big hit. We only had like one crate of apples. And we definitely needed a lot more. Because a lot of kids were like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I'm gonna get messy in the water pool. But once they saw it happen, there were just lines, like ambushes of people where they come out.
You should probably explain how you did that too.
So we had 4 buckets and they were filled up with water and each bucket had 3 apples in it. And you had to sit on the ground and it was on like a bench. And you had to get all 3 apples out first to win. You couldn't use your hands. And pretty much whoever won got the prize, we had some candy there for it. And then we would just take the apples, throw them into a pile of like used apples, because you're taking a whole bunch.
Yeah, no feeding my horses.
Yeah. And then we'll just empty the bucket, 3 full of water, and then another line of people would come up and do the same thing. And some kids would go over and over and over again, to the point I had to tell them to go away, 'cause they did. But we also decorated masks for our masquerade dance, because some kids don't have masquerade masks or can't get them, so we painted them there. We also painted pumpkins, which was really cool. We also had like apple cider and hot chocolate, popcorn, caramel apples. Yeah, we had sports outside, games, all that. It was really fun. It was really fun. Have we ever done that? before? No. I was gonna say, I think it was a really big hit, and I thought it was a good thing.
Where did that originate?
I think Caroline brought up the idea. Oh, leadership. Yeah, we all have little committees, in leadership, and we all kind of work together in our little committees and bring them all together. And plan big things like that. That's really fun.
That's exactly what happens in real life. Everyone's done.
I mean,
Long meeting.
I'm bringing the bobbin for apples next board meeting.
Wait, and this Friday's football game is homecoming.
Yeah.
And who are we playing?
That is such a good question.
Do we remember? Is it Harrisburg? Harrisburg. Okay, all right, it starts at 7.
And we have time.
Yeah, the senior night.
Senior night.
And what else will be there that we?
The homecoming parade, the floats, I'm bringing the floats back. I'm so.
Are you guys playing, like decorating walls?
That happened, yeah, that'll.
I thought I was there last night.
Yeah.
Look normal.
If you saw the fire trucks coming through town on Tuesday morning, that might have been a student with the fog machine. It's still in my office.
Anyway, that one's sticklers now, I told you that was.
So we had a real life drill, it was safe, but they all did great, went out before school even started, we had all the kids in one location, teachers keeping them safe, and I mean, it was actually really good, because you just don't do those things before school, so getting kids out of the parking lot, and, yeah,
Is that your October drill?
yes. It took us 14 minutes, yes.
Good.
The leadership are doing a great job.
Time it took you.
Well, you guys find that, right? We kind of had an idea.
It's just funnier when the fire trucks come and everyone's dressed as Adam Sandler, so that's kind of more of a.
Awesome. Are there any questions for you then? Okay, yeah, we know you are a busy senior. You are welcome to leave. You do not have to hang out with us. If you want to, you're welcome to, but I imagine you got plenty of homework.
I do actually. so-
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
You're welcome.
All right, Mrs. Warner. Do you want to give us a rundown of your fun trip?
I do.
Oh, is it both
Fine.
ways?
But it's both ways. I would say maybe you want to turn around a little closer to you, just because. I want to make sure you're not on full screen. But they're holding. So thank you for letting me come and tell you about my trip with students from June. I wanted to come and kind of give a report because first it was fabulous. The second, the board approved this way back in 2019. So some of you may have been there, but others may not. So I just wanted to kind of check in and tell you about my future plans. So in June, about the week after we got out of school, I took 6 students with me to the Dominican Republic. Because originally I started planning this in 2019 and we were going to go in 2021 and got pushed off for some obvious reasons in 2022. So I had a variety of like enrollment numbers through the years. I ended up with 7 the last week before we went, and then 6 that actually went because we all had to see COVID tests before we left, and one unfortunately got COVID like 2 days before we left. So 6 students made it. So this year, we went to the Dominican Republic, and unlike the Costa Rica trips that I had done before, this one has specific like service and language classes and activities embedded in it. The trips to Costa Rica were fabulous, but they were more like adventure-y, touristy kind of trips. You know, the kids got exposed to a Spanish-speaking country. They got to speak some Spanish. They got to learn about the country and the culture, but with the service and learning aspect of this trip, it was just a much deeper and I think more memorable and just a more educational trip all around. So I loved every minute of it. I think it was really, really exciting. And the kids, I think, got a lot more out of it too. So we were in a region in the Dominican called Creswell, which is kind of in the central mountainous area. It's a small island, but it actually does have like a couple of different
regions, and so Europe has a cool mountain, which was nice in the summer. Like I said, originally planned for 2021. Yeah. Oh, and that picture is of beautiful sunset with is that. So we actually left Portland on June 19th, and we had a red eye that took us to the East Coast and then eventually down into Santiago, which is where the arrow is pointing. The capital of the Dominican is Santo Domingo, which is down here on their southern coast. But Santiago is the second largest city in the Dominican, a little further inland. It has a nice, like a very rich history in the Dominican too. So we got to explore it a little bit on the day after we arrived, and we got to see, for example, this monument to the heroes of the Restoration. So this was when the Dominican was getting independence from Spain. So it's a monument to those people that fought for their independence. So we explored Santiago a little bit, but we really were there for only a few hours. And then we traveled up into the mountains. But we had our first language lesson at the hotel poolside before we left. So that was really fun. So in this picture with the students, they're all out in the patio pool, and these two men were our tour guides. The one in blue, Malo, his name is Malo. And he was our kind of like our language teacher that traveled with us the whole week. And then the man Gray was Ayudes. He was a Dominican tour guide that traveled with us all week also. So Malo's actually from Costa Rica. He flew in to help us. And between the two of them, they organized so many cool activities, and like we had daily language lessons with Malo. And you know, Ayudes knows all these people and stuff, so we got to like connect with them, which is awesome. And this picture is an activity that Malo had his kids do that first morning. He had them draw a little icon to represent themselves and put themselves on this chart, 5% to 100% of their life confidence in Spanish, how much they felt they knew or understood of Spanish. So you can see that first day, most of them put themselves around 25% range. So we'll check back in on the end and see where they have that. So because we're a small school, the tour company in past years and this year puts us with other small schools. We can kind of like fill a tour bus. And so this year we were paired with a small group from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And I think because of the language and service aspect of this, the two groups were like best friends immediately. It was awesome. Cameron Leonard, who is this in red, he was the only boy who came with us from Creswell. He was the only non-senior, and I was a little worried. I was like, "Are you okay? Like, are you really gonna like want to go on this trip?" He took his sister's place like kind of last minute. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, whatever." You know, he's just like kind of goes with the flow. But the other group had these twins that were his exact same age, and they were like best friends immediately. They all have the same, you know, interests and everything. And the three of them, every 3 minutes they had during the trip, they played sports with the local kids. So these were three of the little boys that would come around, and they always had this like one kind of rundown volleyball kind of thing, but they played soccer and baseball, and basketball, and volleyball. Like they just figured it out, and they were speaking Spanish with them like the whole time. It was really, really fun. And in this picture, you can see we were at this lodge up in the mountains for the majority of the trip. They had these dorms for us, and like a dining room that we ate in, and a space for us to do our language lessons, and then this nice grassy area for activities and playing and stuff. So it was absolutely beautiful space in this intentional community in the Dominican. So it's a group of like 20 families that have built this over the years, and invite tour companies to come through and work with them on their different service projects, which is really cool. So our first service project was at a tree nursery, where we helped them package up these, native pine trees to be planted in Haiti as part of a reforestation project. So the kids spent hours hitting these little plastic tubes that the plants were growing in with these sticks, and putting them in piles that were then like wrapped up, ready to be shipped over to Haiti. So it was kind of a cool project for them to be part of. And then we had a fun day where we toured a coffee plantation. We saw the whole process of where coffee comes from and how it's prepared, to taste it. And then we went whitewater rafting, and it was wild. It was like some of the biggest rapids I've ever gotten to, and I'm not a huge rafter, but like, I was like, okay. And I just love this picture because Cameron is just like as calm as a cucumber, and this other picture from Pennsylvania was like panic.
Teacher, get my phone.
Yeah, I know, the teacher. I think I also looked like that at times, but that picture is really good. Yeah, it was super fun. And then after that, we did our second service project, and this was directly in the community we were staying in. And this was an amazing activity. A local family, so all of the families there have like outdoor kitchens, and they cook on wood burning ovens that are built from clay. And this local family had one that was run down, so they needed to build a new one. And so the kids came over and we helped them. So we have this like wooden form that they tamped the clay down into, the first step. And then we went back and had lunch, let it set a little bit and came back. And then the kids helped carve out those different holes for putting the wood, and pots would sit on the top here. They attached the chimney and kind of smoothed it out to make it look nice and pretty.
That's cool.
And so it was really cool because like they could use that night. It was an immediate thing that they're part of. So that was really cool. And then we also had a cooking class with the women who made our meals at the lodge all week. Their food was amazing. So the kids got to prepare the ingredients, chop up the vegetables and the meat stuff, and then the woman cooked it. It's a traditional Dominican stew called sancocho. So she cooked it for us. You can see it's a much larger wood burning stove that they had at the lodge for larger capacity, but then it was delicious. You can eat it for lunch. And then our last day there, we had a final language lesson with Malo. He had the kids do these posters. Each group did a poster of the different kind of things they experienced over the course of the week. So one group did it about food, another did about the adventures we went on, and others did it about the work that we did. But the kids really enjoyed Malo and interacting with them. And you can see that their confidence and their feeling of knowledge of Spanish increased pretty significantly over the course of the week for us. And then all their hard work, pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, doing all the stuff for a week. We went to the beach for the last day for them. We took this boat trip over to a little sandy island in the middle of the Caribbean, and got to do some snorkeling and toured some mangroves on the way back. And some of them may have gotten a little sunburned, but it was really fun.
Red shoulders.
Yeah, it was I was so but they had a great time. It was absolutely beautiful. Then we returned. So what I love about it is I really feel like they made some lifelong connections. It was fun. We had a little trouble getting back. We were a little delayed. Mr. Pennington's flight spent the night in Newark, but we only got back a few hours later than originally expected. So really considering traveling with a group of 7, like a flight, it went way better than I thought it was. I was very happy to get back on the 28th. I asked, Emma, with regards to some of the students who went on the trip, I asked her to just, share some of her thoughts and experiences from the trip. Her audio is a little low. Let me make sure my turn up.
And I will be trying to get towards to the next of the following. This trip. This trip, that's why we work so hard to make sure that all have the best possible trip. And she got us through the few challenges that we have in this group. I really love the language immersion and just the emphasis on language learning that I came from. I learned so much Spanish. And I feel like of the other students who went with you. We also contributed by a group of students from the language, and I feel like because we have that, we also spoke to each other, and it just made it such a great experience. Thank you for the great, so much about the culture of the Dominican Republic, especially by connecting and talking to the locals. It was a great experience. On top of that, we also got people on many sites, and we had so much fun. Some of my favorite parts were trying a bunch of new foods, getting to speak in Spanish, going slowly, working on civil service projects, going rapping, and just meeting so many new people. I learned so much and had a really great experience on the trip to the Dominican Republic.
Cute enough. So to wrap up, just my next plan, put it out there. I would love to plan another service and learning focused trip. I have a list of the potential ones from the tour company that I need to dive into and kind of look at. But I think moving forward, I just feel like it was, they may cost a little bit more, but I feel like they're so valuable, so. I'm looking for potentially to do a trip in June of 2024. So you can expect an application from me soon. And the other thing I'm very excited about, I've been doing, cans and bottle collection for fundraising for the trips, for years now. So for the last 3 years that I've been doing it, and this was such a small group, I actually have a large chunk of change left over. And so I want to offer some scholarships to help kids pay for the trip this year. So hopefully some kids who want to go, may not feel like they could afford it normally, might be able to this time. So I'm very excited about that. And a lot of that comes from, the camp they get at the high school, but also, I don't know if any of you know Steph Corman. She lives over kind of behind the high school in the Swale Ridge Loop area. She organizes that neighborhood to set out their bottles and cans like a couple of times a year for me. So it's awesome. So shout out to her. So thank you for your time, and if anyone has any questions or comments. But
I was at the high school yesterday, and that new tent outside doors, the blue one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
yeah.
I know, like, this is an opportunity.
I know, right?
Right, taking it out of the garbage can.
Yeah.
And I filled 2 big black garbage cans. I was at the last home game with the one prior.
No, it's just like,
I'm not ready. I don't think they need to get.
sorry about that.
Yeah, so I know it's been on my to-do list for years.
Yeah, and one in the gym now too.
That you are
Yeah.
wearing.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
She put one inside the gym too for our
I thought,
volleyball games. There's one outside and one
Yeah.
inside, right?
Double up on the
Yeah.
volleyball.
yeah, great.
Yeah. That'll be.
I just want to say you always, one, give such a great presentation. I feel like I'm gonna send stuff to you. You can do that. And two, what a cool experience from you. You do such a wonderful job putting this together.
I loved the metrics they did each day,
Yeah.
getting more confident.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah. He had some really cool, activities that they did throughout the week.
Very cool. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Seeing Emma and then seeing the kids happy, like, the board knows I'm a crier when we talk about kids. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm very happy to see that they had such a great time. They really. Okay, thank you, Corey, so much for coming. Thank you. All right, same as Hannah, I know you have a busy night. You are welcome to leave if you want, or you can hang out with us. Thank you. Yeah, all right, unfinished business. We have two applications for our vacant board member. So the first question is, do you have enough information from the application to want to nominate for an appointment? Or do you feel an interview process is necessary? If we need to do interviews, which is totally fine, we'll just need to focus on the criteria that we're looking for. That needs to be done before. So what are folks feeling? I would really comfortable voting based on application. Tim?
I think there's been enough of a difference in the applications for me that I'm comfortable with voting based upon what I'm looking at.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, all right, then, is anyone comfortable in nominating? I'll nominate. I would like to nominate Mary Thorpe State to be appointed to the board in vacancy in the open. In the current vacancy, position of that. Would be good. Yeah, we know what you mean. I'll second. Okay. Discussions about, are there any other nominations? I love seeing Carol's application. I would like to nominate him as well. I would like to just have a discussion between both. Is there a second? You can, yes, I don't know. Well, we have to put for one, but I loved both applications. We've got. Anybody like to offer thoughts on one over the other, or differences that they?
I thought in reading the applications that I felt drawn more to one specifically based on some of the things that they were talking about. And the things that we've been talking about as a board and like the district's been going through. I'm a little drawn to the things that the focus that Mary had and that she has been part of the district. I don't know.
I appreciated the genuineness that Harold showed in his application and really just kind of the down to earth saying, I just want to be a part of the team, help out where necessary, dig in. He's got a wide range of kids, so he's seen a lot. So I appreciated that. And with that, I don't know either of them. I actually love to meet both of them, get them involved in a lot of things.
I do think that Mary does have a student.
Yeah, she's actually a freshman. Yeah, Mike.
Sometime before COVID, when she was here, she was a counselor at the high school. And I got involved with her in trying to get the kids that were kind of marginal and not, having struggled to get their diploma. And we had a meeting, I think there's a half a dozen kids. And we basically said, we'll help you get the diploma, we need that, it's important that when you get out of high school, you have a job. And I was involved in that process with her. And I was really impressed with her. I think she did a really good job. She understands the kids really well. And kind of lost touch with her the last few years, but I know she works at it's U of O now. And I think she did a good day for us.
Any other thoughts? Okay, are we ready to vote? Seeing none, not. All right, first nominated is Mary Thorpe. Thorpe, thank you. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, fantastic. And I would just like to be able to vote one for Carol. And would love to see him engaged in the school in some fashion. Maybe we can invite him to apply for the budget committee. I think we're gonna have a, that's a great idea. Great idea. Okay, all right, so the vote carries for Mary, so I'll work with Marilyn on getting in contact with her and getting her here to the next board meeting. One of the very first agenda items we'll get her sworn in. All right, fantastic. We even have a full board again. That's exciting. Okay, just a quick little follow-up on the OSBA convention. Marilyn, is there anything you need to give us a heads up on? It's coming up in November. Folks are registered if they're attending.
Have Tim and Mike and yourself received any messages from OSBA regarding scheduling sessions?
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Okay, I'll check with them and say, when are you gonna send them up and let you know? Okay. And the other thing was, the OSBA, roadshow in October. A couple of you, yeah, right? Anyone else interested?
Yeah,
It sounded,
I need to just register.
well, it's,
It's OSBA.
It's a legislative roadshow will have you will have the chance to meet your region's legislative policy committee representative, ask questions, and share how OSBA can better serve you, get the latest update from the Capitol, find out about the legislative priorities and principles. It's October 27th. The meeting's at 6:30. If you want dinner, dinner's at 6. And let me know. Many of these. So let me know, I can let them know, please. Sure. Okay, Lacey, you can again?
Yes, I want to go, not for dinner. I'll be showing up at 6:30. Do we register ourselves, Marilyn?
No,
You need to
I will.
register.
I will do that.
All right, thank you for taking.
You're welcome.
care
You're welcome.
Can you register me? No, but the joke. I don't do that.
Okay,
Sorry, Candace, we'll throw you in. Thank you. All right.
I'll let
Anybody?
you know.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thanks for that, Marilyn. All right, new business. We need to approve the goal, the rating scale and the timeline. I think we did a timeline already for the evaluation, but it's included here for a refresh. Or just as for context, you'll notice on the timeline, Mike added what we had provided for feedback, which is in February when Marilyn sends evaluation documents out. It will also include the targeted audience piece. We don't have that tool figured out yet, but we've got that on the timeline. And then the check-in that he will do with us in August. So both of those are included in the timeline. Okay, and then the goals are the same goals that we've been using for the past couple of years. And so my memory from our last year evaluation process, I did not hear displeasure with the goals or needing to add another one. Okay, and then the rating scale, that was the improved rating scale. That first year we struggled a little bit with it. This one was more developed. I think we did well with it.
That will even do better than first.
I know. Yeah, that first year was in. Does anybody have any thoughts or edits or feedback on these goals or the ratings?
Do we need to have a agreement, or is it something like proposes on what questions should be asked to the target audience?
Well, we would be looking at leadership, and I would think of just sending them the same fear rating here on these standards and goals if you like.
Yeah, make it easy.
Yeah. Okay, that was a great question. Any other thoughts? Okay. How about a motion to approve
the goals and ratings, yeah. I move to approve the goals and ratings scale for 2022-2023 superintendent evaluation. All in favor? Raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you. All right, late EFD annual transit flex dollars, so. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about what this is? I know we eventually need to be able to approve this action so that we can take advantage of this. But our form is blank.
Well, we gave you, we put a blank form here, but the actual form that's filled out is here, and this one with the signature. But the transit dollars request, comes from, Lane ESD. And that is our flex dollar. Those are our flex dollars that come in, provides support programs or supports for our district, for districts across Lincoln County. These forms are due for OAR by November 1 of each year, to ODE and through Lane ESD. That allows us to participate in the consortium when we contribute our transit dollars. And so our transit dollars come into Lane ESD, we do get some, but if we elect not to take more than 50%, then we stay in the consortium and we get the services that they provide for us. And mostly that has to do with our life skills programs. And we talked about that in last board meeting, his presentation on the services that they provide for us. So your vote would be asked that we not exceed 50% of our transit dollars.
Anybody have any questions for Mike on what we're looking for or what we're approving?
That was a request that we made in the.
Yeah, it's consistent and because of all of Lane County, especially Springfield and 4J, they, yes, to not exceed 50%. They really put a lot of money in there that supports the small district.
If I remember last year, you shared that by not exceeding 50, our value of what we get far exceeds what we would have got, which is the additional 50%.
It's like $140,000 above what we need. And that may mostly come from the large district, and that's true with all the rural districts around town. And those dollars are mostly coming out of 4J and Springfield.
Great. All right. I need a motion in a second.
I know to approve the EFD annual planning funds flex dollars for 23, is it 23-24?
So
Fiscal year?
on the form, the vote is to not exceed 50%. We're going to stay there.
Not exceed 50%. And approve the EFD annual planning funds flex dollars for the 23.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Raise that hand. That is unanimous. Thank you. And check the little box. Real quick.
Box, yeah.
Make sure you do that. Hey, all right, welcome. Yes, we get to hear from Mandy. Fun trip plan.
Yeah. And I got to come tonight and place with Sandy because she is at home feeling unwell. So I said that I would come and be able to answer questions. This will be our 4th time taking the concert band to Disney to perform on at least one main stage. In the past, we have done 2 performances and 1 workshop. In 2019 or 2017, excuse me, the Disney stages were under construction, and so we wound up performing on 1 stage and doing 2 workshops. This year, we will again be requesting 2 performances and 1 workshop, and we are hoping to do the soundtrack workshop, but it is ultimately up to Disney what they decide to approve us for.
When was the last time you guys?
2019, yeah, 15, 17, 19, should have been 21.
I knew there was one you missed.
Yes. Yeah.
And this year we will probably wind up, being able to invite alumni to attend. There is a maximum number on stage, at any performance venue. But because our band is small because of coming out from COVID, and some of our 19 bands that would have liked to be able to go in 21, we're not able to go, and so we may be bringing back some of our alumni that graduated last year that missed their junior year trip. So, yeah. So we will find out exactly how that all plays out, depending upon the dates that Disney approves us for, and if it works with their college final schedules, because right now we are requesting the same as we have every other year, which is the Thursday, Friday before spring break through the Wednesday of spring break, which coincides with all of our students who are local in Oregon state schools. Their spring break happens the same time, but some of our students who are out of state, we have one in Bozeman, Montana, who would love to come back, but I don't think spring break is going to jive.
All right. Any questions for me? So what we're approving is the out of state travel. So Thursday before or
Thursday before through Wednesday up. Thursday, Thursday, why is that? I know it's softball schedule. I know. I know. Every year stresses, I know it stresses baseball and softball so badly, and you know.
I do this myself in the high school, so I'm very much supportive of you.
But I know. And I get it.
Exactly.
Oh, she already texted me about it. She goes to forget it. Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I know it is a challenge that we run into annually, and it doesn't matter which trip, either that one or Reno, when we go Reno on the off years, that slams into softball season as well.
I'll take this one over that.
Yeah, this one's easier. Yeah,
I just love that we have students that have so many opportunities for things.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great problem for a student to have.
and they can do it all. We just have to make it, there's lots of chatting, lots of conversation.
I appreciate it.
Do we have the softball schedule yet?
No, but I'd be happy to share it with you the day.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. That would be great.
Apparently it's tape on.
Exactly.
We're a little worried about the league game, but I would love to go.
Oh, no, yeah.
Not if you don't want to. I vote to approve the Creswell High School music program request for out of state travel.
All right, great. All in favor? It is reluctantly unanimous.
Thank you, Candace.
I would always.
Hold with my left hand.
Yeah. All right, thank you for coming and seeing these plates and things. Let her know we hope she feels better soon.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great evening. Yep, all right, student data.
Okay, I talked about it a little early on the highlights of my report, but just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. Did you all have an opportunity to read the prologue that I presented to you? Great, and then my analysis of the data.
Yeah, I read it, but it's one of those things where I need to like read it again. Are we gonna go through some data together?
We.
Or I may just like ask for 2 minutes of silence for me to read through again.
Yeah, we'll give you this file.
Give you this file. Yeah.
I thought the data was in there. The actual graph, but not.
Or maybe with the, yeah, the data packet. Yeah, it has it. It's just a lot, so I wanted to kind of. Well, I'm taking my moment of silence. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come up and ask them now. This is my struggle with facilitating, and then maybe is I didn't write down all of my questions, so now I'm switching to the phone number.
additional. You all have these.
Yeah, it's in the PDF, that's in the second one. So the questions that I had, if I'm reading through this again, I'm remembering, math, they've always been low for us. And the 8th grade students, for instance, met math proficiency at 25%. That feels even lower than what we've had.
So
Does that?
that,
Might be a little bit. Yeah. So what can we, like, what do we need to do as a board to either understand or help support some progress in math?
so if you look to the map, can you see the map trends? Page.
I'm getting there.
Me too.
Okay. So here's 5th grade math. 5th grade math overtime. What does overtime mean?
Over, it's a trend line. for
Oh,
several
overtime.
years.
Not like they're not gonna pay one. I didn't assume that, but I did not get the over space time. I read the overtime compound word.
Yeah, so if you look at the trend lines from that, which are in by grade level. You see them by grade level?
Right?
4th grade, if you look at,
4th grade.
so there's 3rd grade, 4th grade is the bomb. I mean, they just come alive every year. If there's a down year, they rebound with an up year. I mean, they've got something going on at 4th grade that is consistent over the year from 2014-15.
Would that be the teaching aligned with literally the standards?
Well, that would be the assumption.
Okay.
And for instructional strategies that they're using, because the 4th grade is 18. They work together as a team, each grade level, they work together as a team. Yeah. So when we analyze this, or when I analyze this data, I put out my comments on it. The principals then look at this data and answer the question, why is this? And what can we do about it? And then they process that with their teams, their teacher leadership teams, and the grade levels to look at and to find out why there are these gaps. That's the key in this whole thing, really, is what's the reason. But and then we look for best practices in instruction and curriculum. And so what activities can we do with curriculum, and how can we incorporate that in the instruction for it? Or are there? We're right now in that adoption process. We're in the research, and we're going to pilot something. There's a report on it from Amy where, but we're piloting a math curriculum. The problem is that the state has turned this whole math adoption upside down. And I can explain that. And everyone's kind of in a tailspin on it. Some districts are going ahead and adopting, but they're adopting curriculum without the standards being finalized. And so we decided that we like a curriculum, a specific curriculum, And so it's being piloted now at the middle school level. I sat in on the TV the other day to listen to the presentation. And then we'll look at it from there, that team will report out to the rest of the math adoption team and talk about that curriculum. What the state has done is they've not only put the standards, they've changed the standards in a way that changes the way we instruct math. And our kids are sequential thinkers when it comes to math. And the state is trying to say that there's really specific math for certain math proficiency that a student should be able to do if they're going in one track, which is a career and what that career might be, or another track at this university. And that's would be your higher accelerated sequential math program. So it really isn't, and I'm trying to think out of the box on this one, but the experts are going to be on the math adoption team. But I've been through this years ago with an adoption in 4J. And the same kind of thing, trying to bring the mind and doing a spiraling curriculum with math concepts rather than going straight through from the sequential approach to doing a little bit of, we'll just say algebra in the 5th grade, and then going on to geometry in the 5th grade, and going on to probability and statistics in the 5th grade. And then when we get to the 6th grade, you start over at algebra, and we get up there at another level, into geometry, and then that kind of spiraling is very frustrating for kids. It's not the ideal program or curriculum to teach. It just doesn't work. But what the state is seeing is similar to what we're seeing. Our numbers are not lower than, we're still above the state average in math.
Yeah.
And especially this year, because math just totally tanked across the state after COVID last year. But we performed extremely well. When you think that we were online trying to teach math for a year and a half, the kids that were somewhat present during a lesson, you know. So there was a lot of lost learning there. But what you can see is that, especially in the elementary school, well, both elementary and middle school, is that there's a lot of ground that was made up with the I-rated math. And that's why we came out of this thing at or above state average in our math scores. As low as they look, it's not, I mean, I would have to say that teachers work tirelessly in all the subject areas to be in a position that we're in, our kids are in, of being at or above the state average. Because for us to be at average, we're 20% above those that are below average in the bottom half of the state. If that makes sense to you, we're in the upper half of the state. And that means people work hard to get there. The programs that we've implemented are there. They just take a little time to, we need another year to catch up. This year it's going to be exciting for student achievement. We're going to see a lot of the outcome of the investments that we've made and the people that we brought in to help recover from where we've been for the past 3 years. So,
Can you remind me how we're utilizing the I-read in schools? I think I have a better understanding at the elementary school. We talked about that. Even at the middle school, at the high, I know 9th graders tested for I-read today. And then do we have like a cadence that we test, or how are we doing that?
so they're setting, so you know how we all recall how I already work. Okay. Once you get in there, and it's in there, like working on that problem, there is a concept that's in there. And if the student can't work out the problem, then it'll, okay, let's take it down a level to a different, and see which concept or what the gap is in learning, at what level. And then meet the student there, and then progressively get them up to the higher.
And then what do you retest? Like, what's the feedback loop of like, they tested today, and then how do you like, you reevaluate that your strategies are working?
It does, and this is based on the request that you made at the last meeting
Yeah.
on seeing data through the year. We developed a schedule to present data for you. This is the summative data, the first shot
Okay.
of data that we're going to get for the year from the, and it's on the state assessment. And all of the at a glance data that we get on regular things and that kind of stuff. And when we get down into the weeds of the curriculum and how kids are performing to measure their specific progress, they take benchmark 1 to see where they're at right now at the beginning of the year. Then we roll around into the winter and we take benchmark 2.
Okay.
So we can see the progress that they made through the first half of the year. And then in the spring, we take benchmark 3. And you're going to get the results at each, after we make each benchmark. So you're going to get data next month on how our students perform with I-rate at where they're at. You know, how many of them are at grade level right now. And then the second benchmark, you're going to see how much progress is made with those that weren't at grade level, that are at grade level, then will be at grade level. And then those that will be exceeding the grade level at that point in the year. At that the halfway point, you see that data, that dial move up on those that are at grade level. They're expected to be at grade level somewhere in the spring, but we look for the second benchmark to see how quickly they're making progress between the baseline test and that second benchmark for progress.
Another weird question, because high school at a 4-period schedule, so kids may or may not be in math this semester or next semester, so we take it now, and they're not in a math class now, and they take it again in the winter, like, I'm just not sure how that intervention works.
So because they're taking a year-long curriculum in a semester,
Right.
they're at 3 points of the benchmark will be within a semester.
Oh, got it. So if you're in math now, that's when your benchmark happened. You're not, okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
And for the other students, this and CMS, they'll have them throughout the year. Because they first
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Does I-ready connect with this data or with state standards in a way?
It all, the reason we chose already is because it teaches, it's a reflection of the standards. It's all based on the standards of the Common Core, which are the college and career readiness.
So let me ask this question. 8th graders last year, 29% of them were proficient. Does I-ready, so now they're 9th grade. Would I-ready reflect somewhere around 1/3 of them are proficient at the beginning of the year? Because this was the end of last year, so it's enough of a connection?
Good question. It depends on how quickly the review happens, because every year they have to go back and review it.
Yes.
That's the problem with our education system, is we've had a period of time where we're off, where now we have to go back to the year before the review to catch them up, and then we move forward. So we're going to see where we're at the beginning of the year, which there should be a drop off. Well, yeah, there should be a drop off at the beginning benchmark, somewhere in there. It depends on how the instruction is in the 9th grade class. Well,
And what if they only took the first semester of math and then they had that really big gap because of the 4th period day? Before they go back and take the test. That would be an interesting thing to know. I mean, like, because
We also, yeah, between summer and those things, but like if you only took math your first part of the year, because that's how your fourth period schedule works out. Then you go back and you test, but you have that big,
Like, Jamie, the test that they would take like in December or January would test the end of their knowledge. Spring wouldn't reflect anything.
yeah, but in the beginning of the next school year, when they test to see if they're on grade level, how much have they lost at the age of their last math class. Yeah, and then they end up being, so I was curious about that, like, I don't know if they can identify those kids, obviously, there, but it would be interesting to see if the data reflected that longer period of time, we don't do that, but I don't.
Well, we'll find out from.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Jenny, I'll get some information back on
Yeah.
that, but 4x4.
Yeah, the other piece around high school, because high school is so different, right, than other grades, is kids might be placed in very different math classes at that ninth grade. It could be in algebra one, it could be geometry. I forget, maybe not, my kids are geometry over the summer this year. What does that look like when you get their eye ready? And they're not maybe not meeting standards or deficient in certain areas, but now they're in geometry, which isn't even necessarily the standards that they're getting. I'm just not sure how that works. It's a different type of the being in fifth grade, right? Like where we're all kind of saying, like.
Yeah, the interesting thing on the assessment is, or what we want to do is we're strategizing. What we want to really truly assess our student proficiency is to understand the blueprint of the assessment. And so the assessment, 50% of the questions are focused on algebra. 25% on geometry, and 25% on probability and statistics. And so if a student's going to be testing in March, and they're going to be tested on all three of those, yet the curriculum doesn't cover all three of those
Right.
concepts, and then we have to strategize on how we can get those concepts to them before they do this stuff.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
And so that's where the work is.
Or maybe that's where wind comes in or certain other things. I don't know, but.
It has to be a curriculum design. So when we were when I was at Sheldon in 4x4, we had kids that were right in algebra 1. Right? But by the time of testing, they didn't have geometry.
Right.
So we had to have a mini course of geometry developed for them so that they got an eye and some hands-on geometry before they were assessed on it. And I mean, those are the type of strategies you prioritize your curriculum so that you can get that information to the kids so that they can perform with it. Otherwise, it doesn't move.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Good question.
And are those the things that our PLCs work on?
They
and
are.
our curriculum team is working on, that they'll be
They-
coming back in.
They get this data, each grade level will get this data, but they actually get more. And they're gonna get it. You saw the other set of data, the disaggregated data. So they're gonna get more, so they can look at economic disadvantage, students with disabilities, and race and ethnicity. And to look at those groups that are underperforming that will need a focus on, to get some supports into, or discover, to learn why they're underperforming so much, why there's such a gap there between their performance and where we're at with all students. And that's where you really get into making significant progress, is when you put strategy on those gaps.
Is that something that when they come and present us the new curriculum, we'll adopt the new curriculum? Probably this year, next year, I'll just say that, I'll leave with that. And are those the types of things in the presentation we'll be talking about, and how that curriculum and those strategies will meet the needs of these types of gaps?
How do we cover the gaps of our lower performance students? How does the curriculum address that? And in this ELA curriculum that we adopted, that was the question. How can we serve all kids? The ones that are performing lower, the ones that are accelerating. And this curriculum had the full gamut, the full range to address the needs of those that are accelerated learning, ag students, and the like, and those that are struggling with the gaps that they have. And in fact, fill the gaps. The curriculum does, you know,
I'm gonna request that, like, when they do their presentation, maybe there's a section that helps us understand how that curriculum specifically will help us move these goals, because that's like our thing right now, right? Like, how do we use the data to help with our goals to make our system more successful? That's what we're all trying to do. And so I think for me, because I'm not an educator, it helps me when someone helps me connect those dots in a presentation, because I don't naturally connect them very easily.
so there's the data talks or looks at student achievement in ELA, math, and science, but student success is the whole child.
Absolutely.
And so while we're looking at this, or we're talking with our teachers about how this is working or how to make improvements with the data, we're also talking about how can we improve whole child instruction. And with the whole child instruction, then we're talking about what you're asking about. Those that are not achieving or are struggling here.
Right.
And then, but we can't leave the ones behind that are accelerated, because they all can get away. And so that's the questions answered with the curriculum.
I will be excited to.
Yeah.
See it
Well, good question.
in 18 months or so.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about 18 months. I don't think that, I think there's more urgency in this meeting.
What do you think?
Me, I have to be careful about what I say because I don't want to give the impression that that's what Mike wants.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
But I'm thinking that we will be able to put our finger on something that's fun.
Oh, okay. So be ready for the next school year.
Be ready for the next school year, and there's going to be PD like there is around the world right now. The caution is what, or the concern is what PD are we going to be targeting? Because OBE is rolling out a different PD model or a different instructional model. One that we've not seen, I was in this for over 30 years. And I want to be real comfortable with what we're asking our teachers, how we're asking our teachers to teach the curriculum that we choose.
Do you think textbooks will be ready when we change? I mean, it's a pretty significant change in curriculum model, right? Do we feel comfortable that textbooks will be caught up with that going in, or is that something that we might divert buying textbooks or for another year to let them catch up with the overall?
Depends on what, yeah, and that
Sorry,
really,
that's really-
no, that's a good question, and it's appropriate, and it depends on the model or the curriculum that we select. Right now, with the way that OBE is rolling out the instructional model, there isn't a curriculum that matches it.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we're on point with the tool first, the curriculum. And then we'll know what we want, what we can expect out of the instructional model from our teachers. If we go to a brand new instructional model and a brand new curriculum, you can expect, I mean, you can already see what's going to happen with the performance of the kids. That's really part of it. The system, that's a difficult situation for the system, but even, I don't know that it's acceptable to do in that situation. And that's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
Do research.
That's helpful, thank you, Mary. Sorry.
No, this
And you can start it.
That's both. This is good stuff. But I do want you to, the last page, has, and that we're looking at the red and blue comparisons. that are in your achievement indicator. And look at where we are, where the red bar as compared to the blue bar. And in ELA, if we were, if we sum the data up there on 3, 2, 8, and 11, we would be, I don't know, 10, I haven't done economics, I'm just looking at this, maybe 10% above the state average, or at least. And when we look at math, we're above the state average. All grades across, even though we have some lower, couple of lower grades than the state average. And then science, the same thing. You know, we're above the state average if we put it all together. We're 4 or 5 points above the state average, which, I mean, that's pretty remarkable. To be at 111 districts out of 197 were below the state average. 111 districts. 197. We're in the 112 to 197 group. Above the 112 in the districts in the state. So a lot of credit to the leadership of the schools and the teachers for getting on it with the IRA reading and math. Because in the instruction support, the instructional strategies that they use to support it, and then take it from there into the classroom, into the curriculum. We haven't even launched, I mean, we've set up the ELA curriculum, but we haven't had a whole run through it yet. Last year, we were still in professional development with it. And our kids responded to the ELA, to the instruction that the teachers were using last year. And a lot of them, I think, the ones that you're looking at, were the ones that were really focusing in on the pilot. That very well. The final art K8, they were up to their ears in that highway work. They really went into it hard. And that was a really good move for us. Okay.
Well, kudos to your teachers for doing a great job last year. I know they were covering a couple of years of a gap with what they had from the year prior. And a special kudos to your board for the team, because when you look at that, ELA and math was very good. Everybody on the water.
6th grade did a really good job too. At the high school level, the kids are here to learn. And we talked about that a little bit, you know, if they're out of it or not. The highest percentage of regular attenders that we have over the year since 2014 was last year. Our highest attendance rate last year. And if you think back, reflect back on the reports from the principals and the strategies they had in place for calling them, going to their homes, or whatever they do to get those kids to come to school. Short of sending an officer out there, they did everything possibly and it paid off. And I think another reason for our student achievement levels to be above the state was we were well above the state in attendance. And K2 as well. K2 is very good, 70-something% of the average, and 80%. So, yeah, lots of good stuff happening. Very, very good reason to be proud of what's happening in the district, especially considering we just got out of for education.
So reminding me, we talked about using the data to help us inform decision. So did you think quarterly that we were going to talk about? Remind me what our bigger plan was on when we were going to look at data and.
So on this, your achievement indicators, those are going to be, well, on the map and ELA, you can look at those. You're not going to see the reports that you're getting on the summative assessment, But you'll see the progress report from already.
Okay, yeah.
And those are going to be the next 3 sets of data. Those will be the sets of data points that you see. I'm going to bring you more data on some of the data for the disaggregated groups. So just pulling groups out, bringing that to you so you can see where those gaps are.
Thank you. Okay,
Deep stuff.
yeah. Any other questions on the data before we move on? Okay, Division 22 standards, compliance report.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to say we are in compliance again. Some new stuff coming out. That's why I included the PowerPoint in your board book. So you can see what's coming, what we're working on this year for next year. To be in compliance, and Amy included the new Division 22 standard. I don't know why I call it 22, but that's 50 of them, but anyway, the new standard for our talented and gifted students. And we're already gearing into that work. Amy has a team together, and they are working on the systems for identification and then also delivery on support. And if you think about what we do with our kids that our students that struggle in a subject area, we don't want them to miss the instruction with the expert. We want them in the class getting that with the teacher, and the teacher working and meeting the kids where they are and then bringing them along to get the grade level. Well, the same thing is true with our talented and gifted students. We don't want them to miss the instruction from the expert, but we want them to get higher level stuff going within that curriculum. And so that's what this plan, this new fact plan is now on the DE is describing to us, and that's what the work is right now.
And we don't need to approve the compliance report, right? The board just.
I think I'm required to inform you by November.
Okay.
So, yeah, November 1, because I have to submit the report to OEE by November 15th. We got to post it up for the community to see that we're meeting what standards we're meeting. We're in compliance with all of them. So next thing is we'll post it up on our website, and then I will submit it. I'm still pulling out a little bit more data just to check on a couple of things here. And then it goes in OGE.
All right, well, we're informed. We can check that box.
Thank you.
All right, our last item of discussion is the couple articles that Mike had sent out around the diploma. I thought this is the new agenda format where we're not having administrator reports. We'll spend a few minutes just kind of learning together, sharing insights on a topic. And I thought the diploma review articles were great ones to talk about as a group. A lot of stuff happening here. So open discussion. Hopefully you've read both the editorial and Coltville's news release. What were people's thoughts? And I have both sides of the issue with these.
So rather than address our shortcomings, let's just lower the bar. Rather than,
It's the
that's
editorial.
what I got. So let's not figure out what we can do better. Let's just lower the bar and move forward. And yeah, I was not impressed. Sorry.
Yeah, I found myself wanting, like, I know in the news release from Coltville's office, the final report and all the supporting appendices are there. And I wish I had time to have gone into them because I wanted to learn a little bit more about these two determinations where we're not, right? Like business expectations are not aligned with diploma. And then we're not equitably you know, what to say, the requirements for the diploma have been equitably applied across student populations. I wanted to learn a little bit more about that, because those are big statements, these general statements. The editorial was certainly persuasive, and I think of it from an employer standpoint of the entry level positions that we hire. And I would not want them to come in without an ability to read and write.
Right.
And some math, right? Our entry level positions tend to be basic customer service positions. We want them to be able to speak well with a citizen. That's kind of the front desk.
If there's a group that is not doing as well as it should, regardless of what group it is, we should be addressing how to help that group, not how to move the bar lower so that everybody, so that we have equity. I don't think making the standard lower is how to address equity. We need to figure out why these people aren't advancing, or why this group isn't excelling. And say, okay, well, then we should model for everybody. Because you're right, as an employer, I don't think it's people about it. Do that. Or it will take. Well, think about it in just, and we'll look at just a simple bench or a simple achievement. One of your initiatives is attendance. And we have economic disadvantage students from disadvantaged households or homes. And their attendance is 75%. And non-economic disadvantaged students' attendance is at 88%. Are we going to say okay, now we're not going to have an expectation of 90% attendance so that all students are learning the curriculum 90% of the time? That's what they need to do to learn. They need to be there 90% of the time. So now we're going to take it down to, let's say 75% is the expectation. But we just dropped the whole thing on all of them because they have to be there 90% of the time to learn what they need to teach in the standards. So what Coach Bill is saying, there's I think the difference here is that the foregoing or the opinion is that they've already made this decision to do this. And what Pope is saying is that they're required to do this review of the diploma this year and then send the recommendations to the legislature or the education board, and that the education board make a decision on what they're going to do with the recommendation. So it's not that OBE has made a determination going to change the diploma. They, through their research, their survey of 3,500 people in the state, 3,500, they determined that they made some recommendations based on the survey of 3,500 people on what's happening.
Was that 3,500 students? In the system?
3,500. So, 3,500 out of this state, out of the population of this state, isn't really a large sample based on recommendation on 1%, less than 1%. And we're only 3,500 from Multnomah County. That'd be my first question.
I would hope we would have had like businesses in there as well.
Right, we don't know who the stakeholders were and where they, it was 3,500 diverse students, community members, families, educators, and representatives of higher education workforce and industry. But how many of them were what? You know, I mean, with the group, like, you know, what did we call? 300 students. I mean, I got the earlier, you know, not knowing what your data comes, something that.
To me, a more reliable survey would have been 70% of the community of 197%. I look for country, that's 80% for it to be significant in participation. 80% of those students that are free for that data to mean has significance to represent the group. But anyway, that's the. So this, Mark, you said lowering the bar for equity, lowering the bar to be equitable. And in different subject areas, this whole different math, the math standards that are coming out in the instructional model is all based on equity. That's what we're, and so, I mean, we're going to have to really dissect what they're putting out there to determine whether that's what here. And make the decision for this district.
Right, because we're hearing from our community, our parents and our kids, that they want to feel ready for their children to go out to the real world and be successful. And so that's the thing, when we look at the outreach, we're evaluating that we're giving our kids the tools to be out in their.
That's how we want, that's what we want to go in. That's what we are going into this. And I do believe that particular model of math what's in the recommendation here. And he says it's not what the state is going to do, it's going to be the decision of the Board of Education, State Board of Education, but it's already in the works. But the curriculum or the diploma requirements are not going to change until after the election of the next governor, because the governor is the superintendent of education for the state. So it will be based on that superintendent's decision with the Board of Education. So
But this is going to the legislature, right? This will be a discussion. Did I miss that? So we'll make sure, right? So is this something that, like, would it benefit us as a board to keep track of this issue in the next legislative session? And if we need to have a voice up there, we have a right to go talk with our representatives and lobby.
the reason that I wanted you to have these articles is to be up to speed on what's going on at the political level. Because we have local decision-making power, but we really need to know what's happening with our legislators and the Board of Education, and the governor and all that. Because it's going to shift, it's going to shift hard after that election, regardless of who gets in there. There's going to be a hard shift. So, yeah, these could be.
So still keep tracking.
Were there other comments that you guys have or thoughts about these two articles?
I mean, there was one piece that I did appreciate, and I think maybe it's true now, but the create clarity on the requirements. And I do think there's something to be said to have clarity. I don't know all of the pictures together, but I mean, there might be pieces of it come out of this to be helpful and help us be successful.
If they look at the, well, if the next legislative session, when they look at the requirements, and they're looking at quality education model, that the work that's gone into the state to develop a common core quality education model based on the common core is based on the quality education model. Quality education model has an expensive price tag, which is about $8 million more than what they're giving them. And so, like, for example, they put in the requirement of the Division 22 having PE for every day, 30 minutes, 50 minutes at the middle school. And you hire PE teachers to teach that much. That's an added expense because you still have to have different language arts and math and science and Spanish or whatever. You have to provide those other experiences to teach the whole child. But they don't bring the added funding in source, the funding source to accommodate that. We do it. We have PE for every kid. We're in compliance with that. But there's a cost to it. We could have more CPU programs. If kids could get PE credit and then participating in athletics programs, then we wouldn't need that much FTE and PE, and we could bring more PE over into CPE or more math classes or whatever. But if they're going to put out a formal requirement of career-related learning standards and they're not supported with resources or funding, then we're going to have to cut in some curriculum and provide that, which is where when plays and other advisory classes. Because we can't cut math curriculum to keep career-related learning standards. We can't cut ELA because that's the highest standard of all subject areas. I mean, so we have to find a place to do it within the budget that we have. So I don't know, it's somewhere, there's a lot of tension that's been created between this diploma and the requirements and what the state is funding. That's even deeper than the 2 articles. You keep the rate, you get 5.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Really appreciate it. All right. So I loved just getting to exchange on current information. If you guys are reading something or you see something over the next month, this is just a reminder, send it to Debbie and Mike and I and say, let's talk about this. This is the other thing. If we wanted to do, I mean, we're not quite wanting to do a book study, but we could do like a chapter a month.
Yeah.
This is a book that Mike is recommending, so this is an option. It's not real big. So
Hey, I've got a book on data diving. I think it's fantastic. And this book is, I think, is very well written. It really opened my eyes on some stuff. I'm halfway through this one and I finished the data dive.
You already finished it?
No, I'm halfway through that, but I've done the other one.
And so that.
So, but it really opens your eyes on some stuff that, I'm trying to be really quiet and not political, but it really opens, basically, these are the basics. Reading is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
You need to read and then you need to analyze it, and the kids need to write. And it's interesting, I think it's in that book, it said that the countries that are the smartest kids in the world, they do not use a phone or a computer, they just go back to the basics. And they evaluate, go so long, they have a test of some sort. And you look at that test and the low end of the scale, why is
Are you reading the entire? No, just.
I'm excited about this because, I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong, but it makes a lot of sense. The schools that they implemented this stuff in have had fantastic recovery. They keep all the kids in the same classroom, the high achievers and the low achievers. They even have forms where they have you set, how they have it set, so the teacher can go around the room and help everybody. But they look at a test and what you didn't do well on, a whole bunch of kids not do well on it and just a few. So what they do is, they feed that data to the teacher. Teachers get together once a week, or not once a week, I don't guess it's once a week, but anyway, they review what kids didn't get, and they go along with their normal classes, but they backfeed the stuff the kids didn't get. So they're reviewing that, helping everybody get up to speed. And what's amazing is the results they got. Those kids in 2 or 3 years, they had a half a dozen states. The kids went from the very bottom of the scale with this full of pretty much qualified kids and all the groups or whatever you want to call them, it's the lower of the scale. Those kids are at the top of the whole thing in the state. And you'll see that, and I think they're both, I've never got, I mean, I like mysteries and shoot 'em up, bang bangs and stuff like that. And I got pretty wound up when I went through those things, but you just go back to the basics and read. And it's amazing that the really smart countries around the world, they do not use computers and phones and all that stuff. They just go back to basics and teach the kids and make sure they learn it. And with the way they set it up, they're ready for life, they're ready for college, anything they want to do, and they're all going through the same thing. I guess you could say they're all 100% college ready or whatever. No, Mike got me hooked on those things, and I couldn't put them down once they started. But I got one that's driven by data, and that's the one where they analyze. What was a year or two ago, you gave us the results of one of the big tests that kids take every year. And it went down to individual questions on which kids did well, which questions they missed. And that's what those guys, what they do is you get together with your teachers and they find the stuff that the kids are having trouble with. You kind of backfeed you not the right word, but you know, yeah, you feed that in along with everything else. And the results are just amazing. And you guys can see it in the thing, and I'm sorry to get wound up on thinking about it, but it's because I think there's some things when the governor comes out statement that says you guys still have to be qualified in reading, math, and I can't remember what the writing was. Yeah, writing, you know, graduate. You go out to a job interview, you got a chance if that works out on the street.
Not if you're competing against kids in other state title skills that come in with them for the same job.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, she said the education back, or let's just say the governor said the education back, I think quite a bit. And I mean, that's on hold now, but you guys really, I recommend read that and,
I might need a tutorial on what is the power button?
It's an investment to the, there's a lot of information there, and I'm sure I did pick up a lot of it, but it really got me thinking about the value of really looking at what you're doing and just the way this guy, and he's got a lot of, I think the back 25% of the book is references that he's used, pulled information from where he's got his data and stuff. But what's amazing, the schools that have all the low end of the scale groups, and they take that whole group, everybody right up to the top.
So Mike Smoker, his approach is like the pretty simple. The platform is literacy. Get them reading at high levels and writing, with their writing skills top. Because to get anywhere after high school, you're going to need to demonstrate your ability. And reading and writing, those are the basics for every subject area that they're learning. And from there, the assessments, just like you said, Candace earlier, the comment that you had earlier. If the data shows us that we're here, then what are we going to do to move that? And it's exactly what he's talking about in there. And the practices that he describes are from Doug Reeves and Marzano, all these big education gurus that kind of lead the best practices in education across the country. I mean, and in other countries too. But he's pulled all of it together and put it in a straightforward, simple understanding, like this isn't a new thing kind of thing. This is the good. Keep book. I'll get more.
Are we gonna do this every night?
If you
Read
want.
it in chapter or what?
But there's not really a chapter, so like it's like a page, we have to like figure out what it's.
Short pack. That's,
So,
They're pretty sure. They're like, I know, well, when my son says, I'm like.
so this is mine. Yeah, we think, when I get a book like this, it's going to take the notes and the writing. Marking. You know, highlighting your ideas.
Let's get back to my college.
And I'll do that, I have another order in Amazon, will that you order, they have limited numbers, you order and 5 is it, so I have another bundle coming. So, you can have either the first edition or second edition. I have the second edition if you want to read it instead of the first edition. First edition is what made that, first was, I think, probably about 10 years ago. Maybe, no, maybe not that long, maybe 8 years ago. But the way that I bring data to you is how I connect it to him. Because of the way he uses data to inform decisions to make to increase students. Their achievement.
Are we gonna email us what you want us to read? Well, let's start with. Chapter, there's an introduction.
There's an introduction. I know, the introduction is page 1 and chapter 1 starts on page 7, so let's read the introduction in chapter 1. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Who needs to look?
I.
I'll have them. They'll be here within some days.
I already said. Prime dates or that's don't you worry about it.
Are you good to go with this one?
Yeah, okay. It's on Velvet. It is prime date. I Christmas. You need to
Thanks, Mike, for you putting your.
Yeah.
yeah, I was, Mike got to talk me into this, and I thought, well, okay, I'll leave one. I went to the
Now we hire.
bookstore, and then I didn't find the one that he told me about, I wanted was diving in data or something. And that got me going, and then I got the other one, I ordered that and got that one. It's just fascinating that it's basically go back to the basics and review, and what you don't get, work with the kids some more on, and if you do it right, and it's something that the teachers can get excited about and really want to be part of it, because it's so much, the kids do so well, the way it's set up. And from what I'm reading, I'm guessing it's not as hard as, it's just as easy, well, teaching's not an easy job at all, but I mean, it's no more than what they were doing before, except they're getting more focused to get more done. Yeah, it was an eye opener for me, and I guess it really bugs me about, no, you don't have to read, write, or do math, and you can get out of it.
So this whole one team, one dream approach or one team approach. What you're reading, the principals will be reading too. And so the conversations or what you're going to get and conversations that you have when you run into a principal or assistant principal or whoever in the district, you'll be on the same, you'll have a lot in common with the conversation when you pull into this. How long you work in the schools here.
I like it. All right, trustee reports. Mike, do you want to share anything out of our trustee reports?
Yeah, been to a couple middle school cross country meets. 90 minutes meeting, couple other things, but the best part of the day, Jenny hired a shop teacher that's certified to teach air conditioning. And that made my day when I found out about that. So I took him over to the Creswell Aircraft Association meeting, introducing those guys. Trying to get him in the airport commissioners meeting. He couldn't make that, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna make sure that he knows the manager of the airport, try to get him connected to the plane, although we can do that. But really a nice young guy. This is his first chiefing job. And, the information that's out there, both for pilots and for fixing airplanes, there's a wealth of free information coming up, and trying to get as much of that in front of him as I could. We'll see where it all goes, but I really hope it's turned into something. You know, we kind of got it started before with the drone stuff, and that was going really well. And then the teacher moved and COVID hit, kind of set us way back, but that was exciting for me to see that. And the pilots at the airport are all excited to help us out any way they can. So we'll see where it all goes. But everything looks good.
Mark, anything to share in the trustee reports?
No, good.
So I obviously gone to a number of football games. I've been making my way to a lot of volleyball games, which are very exciting to watch. I'm excited to see them move forward. I was at the high school the other day, during lunchtime. And we worked on designing our new software. We ordered new software uniforms. We let the kids kind of lead that process and have ownership, so they're excited for it, and they're wearing what they want and what makes them feel like they're really big. So we did that with the girls the other day. Went to steering committee this afternoon. I went to my first girls soccer game the other day. I know nothing about soccer. I was completely confused the whole time, but it was very fun to watch. Sports. I know sports, and I love soccer, like, I know, I can tell there's a really important strategy, but my mind could not pick up on it. And I was like, okay, so I talked to the girls the next day, and she explained a little bit to me, and I would try to come to more games, so that was fun. And I recently joined the Boosters. I'm joining the Boosters meeting. Awesome. And Sam?
Well, I was going to go to the planning meeting, but I wanted to avoid a quorum and community forum, and I again wanted to avoid a quorum, so I am a member of the steering committee with these two ladies and many other people. And we got all over half an hour.
Extra duty.
Extra duty. Unfortunately, that's all I've been.
So had a golf tournament this last weekend, boosters, had a lot of fun, very successful this time. I think that it was probably not as financially successful, our climate's changed a little bit, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of people had a good time. I've heard responses was like the best we've done, so that's good. Awesome. Yeah, they had a really good time, which was weird, so I was like, it's really awesome. I mean, like, it was fine. I didn't get to drive a golf cart around, but I was like, but I think that we changed it to a morning tournament and then afternoon tournament. I mean, people love that, like getting to have the rest of the day. That's what I mean. It was really good. It was, so ended up with a lot of support, and Avery has a total of 14 teams out there, so it's good. So I spent a lot of time planning that in my free time, which I have done. And then concessions, been doing football concessions for a couple times. I do all the shopping for both volleyball and football concessions, and I have to say I use the lunch shopping. So much stuff, so much stuff. And then leadership team meeting, steering team meeting, and I've been to a number of girls soccer, which I do. But, okay, I will have. Yeah, and booster club meetings. So meetings. So, what it is.
Did you mention steering committee?
I think steering meeting.
Okay, I did mine.
No, I couldn't, it was just 2 minutes ago.
You made it unforgettable.
I mean, we have a strategy for next time we go over the time. But it's fine.
We have 10,000.
He thought it was 5 o'clock and it was 4 o'clock or something, and it was like more like almost 4:30.
No one said anything to you, we all just kept.
Couple faces that are
I
like,
talked to you, I thought that was wrong.
wrong, people pack up their stuff there, nothing seems to be.
Well, that's right. That's good.
I want to share a conversation I had with Vince, because I wanted to make sure that we were doing due diligence on, the evaluation assessment. Because my aha moment occurred in our conversation last month of, like, specifically Candace was thinking goals for professional development for the board, and I kept thinking board goals, because this is all around the definition of board goals. I kept thinking board goals are district goals. And only through our conversation last month did it realize, like, oh, a different definition of board goals than maybe somebody else does. So I called Vince to kind of get an idea of, like, what is the universe? Like, what do other boards do for board goals? And he confirmed, like, yep, confusion is good, because it's like a lot of boards have that, not that it's good, but it's normal. A board goal really just means any goal we choose to adopt as a board. It does not have to be a district goal. It does not have to be a professional goal. It can be anything we want. So that was good. He did confirm, like, the district goals. And since we have a strategic planning process now that we're into, we're doing community engagement in, picking up a district goal process now would not make sense. Like, he would recommend that we wait, so that was good. But professional development as a board does make perfect sense. So all of that was great. I wanted to let you know, I followed up with Vince to, like, confirm what should we be thinking? And he's like, we're getting there on the right track. So I was gonna say, if we didn't want to do this, or if we wanted to do something in addition, he's happy to support any learning that we want to do. So we could do picking up the assessment. If we wanted to do a survey online, Marilyn can help me send something out to say, what's your top 3 things or your top 2 things? Find what we wanted to learn more about from the assessment, and we could focus our learning on that. So that's an option for us. I know we've also got this book. We can pick up one after the other. We can hopscotch each other. If there's something from the assessment that you're wanting, because I'm not wanting to, I don't want the learning to be just, you know, what we brought as the option. There's more things there. So I just want to keep the conversation going, because I don't want my lack of understanding to limit us as a board. So do folks want to keep, like, do we want to explore this as our first year? Do you want an option to do a survey? It's kind of like the voting docs. If you're in public, right, in a meeting, it's like, you got 3 dots, go vote for what you want. We could do that digitally and then see where that is at the next meeting. And there could be something in this book that aligns with that. There could be something else. The other concern I had talked with Vince about was picking up stuff that we would need Mike to help us with, because he is so taxed on the strategic planning process. And Vince assured me when it comes to professional development, he's more than happy to help us. Like, he has such a breadth of knowledge and resources that if we choose a topic that we want to learn about, he can feed us that and work with that so that we're not adding more weight to Mike's schedule. So all of that is, like, how are you guys feeling about that? What do you want to do with any of that? Go Candace.
Yeah, I think that's great. I have my own opinions, but I think we need professional development on, so I think it's a great idea to maybe have a survey so everyone gets an equal say, because I know I'm usually the loudest. So if we then do it in a way that everyone gets, you know, how to do that. Yeah.
So are there some suggestions that Vince has for the survey? Is it based on what we did? I didn't specifically ask him about doing a survey. I was talking with him about what are board goals? What's the normal thing boards focus
and like anything and everything. Yeah, it's completely up to us to create. There's no right or wrong. And so when I was giving the example of my aha moment, I was thinking district goals.
Yeah.
And then there's professional development goals. And my concern on, I don't want to ask like too much more, like 5 book studies right now does not make sense, right? That's just a big string. So, and that's when he said, if you choose a topic to like choose one as a board, he will help us find resources, whether that's a book. And he actually said many boards choose a book a year and do a chapter a meeting. He goes, that's a common practice that is. So that was good feedback. And Mike already had this, book that he's working through with administrators and stuff. So I am happy to work, like, we can draft a survey based upon the assessments, because there were some, like, I would choose the weak parts that we have. Right, choose the weak points, and say, based upon that assessment, vote number 1, 2, and 3, with number 1 being your number 1 topic we want to focus on. And hopefully from that, we have a consensus. If not, not duplication, but the tie would happen in a discussion, like we bring that back next meeting, and then figure out, how's this book going? How much time do we want to dedicate to another topic? We can take it to this. Is it an article or 2? Is it a training that we need to do in a workshop? That kind of thing.
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
I'm also, like, we have monthly meetings, that's great. I also know back in the day, people, I don't remember anymore, used to have work sessions, and not that I advocate for lots more meetings. But I do think it's important, especially with what's going on in the state of our education right now, that we're figuring out how to help move our kids forward and how we can be successful in doing that. And that's something where I personally struggle, like, I shared that over and over again, right? Like, we get data in, how do we get it? How do we process it? And then how do we help direct our funds or whatever we can do to control making better outcomes? That's what I feel I need to know more about. And so, yeah. The other thought, because we talked about this idea, kind of touched on, I know we touched on it in the assessment workshop. I know we talked about it a couple other times, is having some kind of, like, I'll call it a dashboard tool that keeps the data for us year after year, because right now we have to go back to the board book and click a couple meetings because we know it wasn't springtime and find the data. So if we could have something where it's like, we got last year's data and now this year's data. So if there's interest with that as well, then maybe that's a committee that we would create, have a couple people break off, do some research on what other districts are using or examples of things, and then bring recommendations back. I know Mike would be able to help us figure out, like, over the school year, be able to implement something like that. Okay, is there interest in kind of creating that subcommittee now? People that are interested in the data, finding examples of how to look at that. I probably know most people, so I'd be happy to. Well,
I'm willing to go look and see if I can find anything from other districts. So I can maybe hint what I have to. I'm not. I don't want to study.
Yeah.
Hours, reasonable amount of time while I'm sitting in the airport. No,
Well, I think a good outcome for this would be, by the end of the year, we've got a dashboard up on the school district website that we can go to. Right, so
information we talked about tonight, and like, for 3 seconds, and we're like, oh, I'm constantly going back and trying to figure out what was that this time.
yeah, and
More readily available.
I'm sure with the website's technology being relatively new, easy just uploading an Excel spreadsheet, right? So if you don't find anything, just literally get a table, because Excel can be anywhere in way as well. Yeah, so. Okay, all right, that's fantastic. Thank you both for that. Okay, all right, so with that, anything else that I can do, otherwise I can back down for us. I'm sorry.
Thank you.